It was a quiet evening in Rivertown, the kind of place where everyone knew your name, or at least thought they did. The streets were lined with small shops, kids rode their bikes on the sidewalks, and life felt predictable. But beneath the surface of this picturesque town was an unspoken tension, a division that many chose to ignore, but that was impossible to deny. At the center of it all was Chief Randall Hayes, a man known for his no-nonsense approach to law enforcement. Chief Hayes had been with the department for over 2 decades. He was proud, sharp, and in his own mind, always right. He believed in order, in control, and in the letter of the law, or at least his version of it. But if you asked the town's black community, you'd hear a different story. They'd tell you about the countless times Chief Hayes' justice felt more like judgment, where a glance or a suspicion could lead to an unwarranted stop or worse. And then, there was Marcus. Marcus Taylor was 17, a straight-A student with dreams of becoming an architect. He had a knack for sketching buildings with intricate details, often sitting on the steps of his apartment complex with a notebook in hand. But in Rivertown, none of that seemed to matter when people saw Marcus. To Chief Hayes, Marcus wasn't a kid with talent and ambition. He was just another black teen in a hoodie. And to Hayes, that was enough to raise an eyebrow, or worse. One night, as Marcus walked home from his part-time job at the local library, it happened. Chief Hayes, patrolling in his squad car, spotted Marcus. To the chief, the sight of a young black man walking alone at night was cause for suspicion. He didn't see the library name tag hanging from Marcus's jacket. He didn't see the books under Marcus's arm. What he saw was trouble. The squad car pulled up, the red and blue lights painting the street in harsh flashes. "Hey you!" Chief Hayes barked as he stepped out of the car. Marcus froze, his heart pounding in his chest. "Yes, sir?" he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "What are you doing out here?" Hayes demanded, his hand resting on his holster. Marcus held up the books. "I just got off work. I'm walking home." Hayes didn't buy it. "Work? At this hour? Doesn't seem likely." Marcus tried to explain, but Hayes wasn't interested in explanations. Within minutes, Marcus was up against the hood of the car, his books scattered on the ground. Neighbors peered through their windows, some shaking their heads, others too scared to intervene. By the time Marcus was let go, he was humiliated and shaken. He went home that night, determined to tell his story, not just to his family, but to anyone who would listen. What Marcus didn't know was that his encounter with Chief Hayes was about to set off a chain of events that no one could have predicted. The next day, Marcus's mother, a local activist named Lisa Taylor, took to social media sharing her son's story. It went viral almost instantly. People from all over began to comment, sharing their own experiences with Hayes and the Rivertown police. The hashtag Justice for Marcus trended nationwide. Within days, reporters swarmed the town. Chief Hayes, who had always operated with impunity, suddenly found himself under a microscope. The media dug into his record, uncovering years of complaints and allegations of racial profiling. What had been an open secret in Rivertown was now national news. But the twist didn't end there. A week after Marcus's story broke, Rivertown was rocked by a scandal that no one saw coming. Chief Hayes' teenage son, Dylan, was caught shoplifting at a local convenience store. The irony was hard to ignore. The same man who had built his career on judging others now found himself on the other side of the equation. When the news reached Marcus, he didn't react with anger or satisfaction. Instead, he saw an opportunity. He reached out to Hayes, asking to meet. Hayes, desperate to salvage his reputation, agreed. They met in a neutral space, a community center where Lisa often organized town hall meetings. Marcus sat across from Hayes, calm and composed. "Chief Hayes," Marcus began, "I don't hate you, but I need you to understand something. What you did to me, and to others like me, isn't just unfair. It's dangerous. You judged me without knowing me, without even trying to. And now your son is in a situation where he'll be judged too. How would you want him to be treated?" For the first time, Hayes didn't have a response. He listened as Marcus spoke about empathy, about justice, about the kind of town Rivertown could be if people like Hayes chose to see beyond their biases. The meeting didn't magically change everything, but it planted a seed. Hayes publicly apologized to Marcus and his family. He announced new reforms within the police department, including mandatory bias training and the creation of a community oversight board. As for Marcus, His story inspired more than just a conversation. It sparked a movement. He began speaking at schools and community events, using his platform to advocate for justice and equality. His dream of becoming an architect never wavered, but now he also dreamed of building bridges, not just of steel and concrete, but of understanding and compassion. And Chief Hayes? He stepped down a year later, replaced by a younger officer who had grown up in Rivertown and was determined to rebuild trust. Hayes left the spotlight, but the lessons he learned that year stayed with him, a reminder that the tables can turn when you least expect it. So, the next time you're tempted to judge someone based on what they look like or where they're from, remember this story. Because karma has a way of catching up, and sometimes it does so in the most unexpected and poetic ways.